This is a story of God's redemptive grace and mercy. It is of His unconditional love and forgiveness. It is the tale of selfless desires, brokenness, and despair that is combated by the unbounding love and incomprehensible grace of God. In a land far away lived a man who had 2 sons. They lived comfortably, in unity with one another, working and breaking bread. As the years went by, the younger son became enticed with the idea that there was much more to life than merely working away alongside his father and brother. What started off as a minuscule thought blossomed into a full-fledged desire to go and taste what the world had to offer. His father could not possibly think he was to spend the rest of his life in this very household, doing chores for him, robbing himself of the extravagant lifestyle he knew he deserved. He had put in years of work for his father, and what good did that do to him? He must be entitled to some form of compensation. He would confront his father for what was rightfully his. And so he went to his father one evening. "Father, give me the share of the property that is coming to me." He confronted his father in a booming voice. His father looked at him with loving eyes and without hesitation divided up his property between him. As his son walked away confidently with his inheritance, his father sat there with nothing but love and yearning in his heart. He closed his eyes and prayed for his son's well-being. Not many days later, the youngest son gathered all he had, packed away his share of what his father had given him, and ventured away on a journey to a faraway country. On his way out the door, he strut out confidently, without taking a moment to look back at all that he was leaving behind. His older brother stood in the doorway, shaking his head disapprovingly. But his father watched him silently, with yearning and prayer in his heart. There was an unexplainable and unworldly peace that overcame him as he watched his son walk boldly into the unknown world before him. And so he went, riches in his hand and desire in his heart. This land was tantalizing and offered pleasures beyond measure. As long as there was money, there were friends, food, and entertainment. So he used his riches and spent it all on his alluring friends. This is it. This is what his father has been keeping him from. This is where he was supposed to be, with his friends, enjoying the indulgences of the faraway country, not struck in the confines of his father's house, slaving away as he was before. He continued to indulge himself in all the finest things and people, living what he thought to be his best life. But money is not without limit. As he engaged in his hasty living, he lost sight of the limit to the money he was spending. He squandered his property in reckless living. As the money diminished, his friends went with it. He soon learned the pleasures of this world are temporary, and his actions had consequences. He was in utter need of merely a crumb of bread. He was famished. He brushed away the shame that overcame him as he thought of coming home to his father, empty-handed, wearing nothing but dirty rags. No, he would go find a job and make a living. He was not ready to face his father in the state that he was in. After searching long and hard, one of the fellow citizens of this faraway country hired him out to the fields to feed pigs. As he made his way out there, distributing this food to the pods, the squealing of his stomach drowned out all the noises around him. he was left with nothing but his thoughts. For a moment, when he felt as if his stomach was eating itself, a single thought crossed his mind and lingered. He longed to eat in the pods along with the pigs. When he came to himself, he remembered his father. He remembered his loving gaze as he left him with his share. Disregarding his counseling words, he remembered as he strut out of the house without glancing back once more. Now, his soul was tortured by these memories. How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread? But I perish here with hunger! He cried to himself in anguish as his stomach continued to grumble. He sat in silence for a moment, begrudgingly realizing what he had to do. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. He rehearsed aloud as he stood there, all alone. He repeated these words in his head, plagued with fear of the outcome of his actions. He repeated them as he trekked out of the foreign, faraway country that brought him so much grief and anguish. A country that had promised him all the pleasures, but left him yearning for his father's home, for his former home. It had been days of treacherous travel. He was exhausted, not only from the lack of food, but from the anguish that resided in his soul. He peered down and saw his father's house from a distance. He wiped his dirt-specked and tired eyes and sighed as he prepared the speech he had been rehearsing on his journey back. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw something moving ahead. As he ventured closer, he realized this was his father, running at him. Door left ajar from behind him, tears filling his eyes, arms wide open, welcoming an embrace, moved by compassion. His father embraced him tightly, planting kisses on his face. For a moment, safe in his father's arms. Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. The younger son whispered tearfully, darting his father's gaze in shame. His father wrapped his arm around his shoulders and squeezed lovingly in response. He turned to his servant standing at the door. Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this is my son. He was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. He sang joyfully. And so while they celebrated this joyful occasion with music, food, dancing, the eldest son returned from work. How could his father celebrate this? He abandoned him, took money from his father, and spent it on a reckless living. He comes crawling back home, and father calls for a celebration. Moved by his love for his eldest son in that very moment, he paused before answering, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours," he explained patiently. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad. For this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. It is important to remember, it does not matter how far we stray away from our Heavenly Father, or how much we squander the gifts He provides. He is always delighted when we turn back to Him. His unconditional love is waiting for us to return home, where He greets us with open arms.
His father for what was rightfully his.
Why are you laughing at me, bro?
Stop. Nobody's laughing.
You're a rich bad boy.
Make sure you get my Jordans.
Stop laughing.
You gave me that face.
But we said fake tears.
That's an expensive desk, man. Be careful.
You own
That's coming out of what I owe you.
Brother, guess what I did with the 100 grand my dad sent me? I spent it and I'm still back here. And guess what? You're not.
You have to be like, yo, Dad.
Dad, I need to talk to you.
But the stock market's down.
Would you leave? Thank you, Father. I don't want to talk
Thank
to
you,
him.
son. I mean, you're in it?
Who is trying to hang? Question mark. New whip. Period. Who this?
Like, man, like, I was just eating the pig's food, man. The servants in my house have more food than that, man.
I can't believe I ate the pig's food and I actually liked it.
I look pregnant.
It is perfect.
Oh.
Appreciate it, Father.
McGregor walk.
Yeah, McGregor walk. Thank you. That's good. That's perfect. Yeah.
Hey.
I am talking super important business call right now. Oh, they're here. Perfect.
Oh.
Я так скучав за тобою. Дякую.